You know what's funny about running ultras? We spend all this time obsessing over splits and nutrition and training blocks and taper weeks. We dial in our gear. We study elevation profiles. We tell ourselves we're ready. And then race day comes. And sometimes none of that matters if you're not present, if you're not locked in, if you're running on autopilot while your mind is somewhere else entirely. Now, this isn't the race recap I wanted to record. This was supposed to be the episode where I told you about crushing my goal, about finally putting together that perfect race for my coach, about giving my wife a quick day instead of her usual all-day wait at the finish line. Instead, in this episode, I'm going to tell you the truth. Because if this podcast is about anything, it's about showing up honestly, even when honesty doesn't look pretty. Cue that intro music.
Who says you need to fly to reach the top? Keep beating your block till your feet are hot. Get your head out the sand, join the flock. It's okay to run scared, we enjoy it a lot.
Welcome back to the Ostrich Running Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Miraz, and if you're new here, welcome to the show where we talk about endurance, mistakes, mindset, and the moments running exposes in you that you didn't even know were there. In today's episode, well, this one's a little bit different because this isn't a victory lap. This isn't a race recap where I tell you how I perfectly executed the entire race. I hit my goals and crossed the line, proud of myself. This is the episode where I tell you how I crossed a finish line in 7 hours and 42 minutes, got congratulated for 4th overall and 1st in my age group, and then I didn't even actually finish the race. I missed a loop. I ran 45 miles, not 50. And that moment right there, well, that moment messes with you. Because the legs feel like they earned it. The watch, it says you earned it. People are cheering like you earned it. But deep down, you know the truth. So today, I'm walking you through the full story. The goal, the plan, the fog I showed up in, the cracks that started forming, the signs I ignored, and the decisions I made after when I could have stayed quiet. Because this podcast isn't about looking like a winner. It's about living like one. But before we get into it, let's hear from our sponsors, us, Ostrich Running. Look, I've tried every electrolyte product out there, the super sugary ones, the ones with the gimmick salt, the tablets that take forever to dissolve. On a lot of these, they mess my stomach up. But Ostrich Salt, it's different. Simple. Just pure electrolytes, sodium, potassium, and magnesium malate in the ratio your body actually needs when you're sweating through mile 30, 50, or 80. I created this because I needed it. When I was out at Kodiak 100 running through the night, cramping was not an option. When you're managing 100 miles, you can't afford to bonk because your electrolytes are off. So I made something that works. No artificial flavors, no BS, just quality ingredients. And here's the thing, whether you're running ultras or you're just trying to get through a hot 10K without cramping, your body needs electrolytes. That's not negotiable. Now head to ostrichrunning.com and grab some electrolytes today. Use code SALTY6 to try your own 6-pack for $6 because you can't run scared if you're sitting on the side of the trail with cramps. All right. So let me be honest about where my head was leading up to race day, because actually this part matters more than anything. Physically, I felt so-so. Not terrible, not injured, not sick, but really not sharp either. You know that feeling when your body isn't throwing up red flags, but it's also not giving you that quiet confidence like, yeah, we're ready. It was more like, I guess we'll find out. And then mentally, I was in a complete fog. And I don't mean like some dramatic Hollywood fog where I'm sitting in the dark journaling all my feelings out and staring at the wall. It's raining outside coming down the window. I mean that kind of a fog that looks totally normal from the outside. The kind of fog that comes from just life in general, right? because the holidays, they had just happened. And if you've got kids or you've got family stuff, you got work deadlines, you already know what that season does to your mind. It's late nights, early mornings, constant movement, a million little tasks, a million little conversations. And in the middle of it all, you're trying to hold on to training like it's a rope in a storm. You're really white knuckling it, as we like to say. And then on top of that, Jarrett and I were doing some extra filming, content projects. So it's not just training, right? It's planning shoots, it's recording, it's setting up sets. It's all day until the early evening. We're editing stuff. We're running around trying to capture the moment and still trying to be present in your actual life. And on top of that, we got a new puppy. As you know, not a replacement to Izzy, who we lost in October, but a new addition to the family named Chewy. And having a puppy, that's a whole different type of chaos, right? Because a puppy does not care that you have a 50-mile race coming up. A puppy's like, bro, it's 2 a.m. Let's get violent. So life was full. Life was busy. And I wasn't necessarily falling apart, but I was definitely scattered. My mind was everywhere. And here's the part that, I didn't recognize until after, right? I wasn't doing the mental work. I wasn't visualizing the race like I had previously in other races. I wasn't thinking through key moments. Where am I going to get tested? Where do I need to lock in? Where do people make mistakes? What does the course look like? Where do I need to slow down, fuel, reset? I wasn't studying the course like I should have been. I wasn't respecting the trails. I wasn't respecting the details. I wasn't respecting the effort. I was more so just going through the motions. Like I was just checking a box. Show up. Run. Finish. Post a recap. Move on. And that right there, well, that's dangerous because that is not how ultras work. Ultras don't punish you when you're weak. Ultras punish you when you're casual. They punish you when you assume you can vibe your way through 50 miles. And I really need you to hear this part because it applies to way more than running, right? Your legs don't always lose races. Sometimes your attention does. Because you can have that fitness, you can have that training block, you can have the coach, you can have the nutrition plan, you can have the best gear you've ever worn. But if you show up distracted, if you show up mentally split into 10 different directions, if you show up without that laser focus, well, you're already compromising your race before the start line even begins. And the scary part, you're not going to feel it at mile 3. You won't feel it at mile 10. Sometimes you won't even feel it at mile 20 because physically you're still strong. But that fog, it's quietly collecting interest. It's a delayed payment. It's a mistake waiting for the right moment to cash itself in. And that's what happened to me. I showed up to San Diego in a fog. And that fog, well, it cost me. All right. So let me tell you about the plan because I actually did have one and that's important, right? This wasn't one of those races where I just show up, wing it, and hope the universe rewards me for being stubborn. No. I came into San Diego 50 miler with a real pacing strategy. Something my coach and I talked through. Something that was actually designed to protect me from me. Because if you've listened to this show long enough, you know this. My greatest strength is that I can suffer. My greatest weakness is that I can suffer too early. So the plan was smart, conservative, mature even. The pacing was simple. Hold a 9:30 pace until mile 29, Not mile 10, not mile 15, mile 29. And then only if I still had something left in the tank, only if I was feeling good and fueling was working and my brain was clear, that's when I drop it down to 9 minutes to 9:15 pace for the back half. Let the race come to me. Don't force anything. Don't get cute. Just execute. Even though that was kind of cute, right? And I remember thinking before the start, dude, this is the race. This is the grown-up version of you. This is Coach Melissa's programming actually turning you into an adult. A great plan. Like, really, a great plan. And then the race starts. And, it's kind of hilarious how fast the brain forgets logic when adrenaline hits, because suddenly it's race day and you've got people around you. You've got fresh legs. You've got that morning chill. Your watch just fully charged and ready to go, and you're feeling light. And that voice in your head that should be saying, relax, be patient. Well, that voice gets replaced by, let's go, baby. We're about to win the whole internet. Let's do this. So miles 1 through 10, I'm running with Trace. Good dude. Another athlete of Melissa. Great energy. His first ultra. We're talking about things that we've been through together. When you really find someone that in the early part of the race that matches your rhythm, you guys are just clicking along. You're talking a little bit. You're being silent when you need to. You're both watching each other's pace. You're both laughing a little bit, just enjoying the fact that it doesn't really hurt yet. And I'm thinking, all right, this feels easy. And I know that being easy is very suspicious, right? And I've been here before. I know that, hey, it's time to really slow it down, right? This is always going to feel easy in the beginning. And I look down at my watch around mile 5, mile 6, mile 7, and we're running a 8:55 to 9 minute pace, not 9:30. And I'm not going to lie, a part of me liked that because there's something, intoxicating about running fast early in an ultra. It makes you feel like you cracked this code. It makes you feel like you cheated physics. It makes you feel like you can think maybe today is the day that I'm just built different. But then the other part of my brain, the part I've been trying to strengthen for years, the part that's supposed to lead this whole operation, right? The part finally kicked in and went, hey man, this is a 50-mile race, not a 10-mile flex, right? And at mile 10, I had a choice, right? Trace and I hit the first aid station, and we go and we get everything that we needed as far as our fueling. Trace had beat me out of that aid station, and I know I could have raced up and caught up with him, and I could have just kept riding with him and keep going. I could let the adrenaline drive the car while I sit in the passenger seat, just smiling, thinking, oh, we're so back. Or I could do the hard thing, right? The boring thing, the smart thing. I could admit to myself, I'm running too hot too early. And I could dial it back before it became a problem that I couldn't undo. So I did. I made the call, and I told myself, hey man, it's time to pull back a little bit. You just keep rolling, right? And I remember just watching my watch and, understanding my pace and feeling that little pang in my chest that every runner knows, that fear of getting left behind, right? A little insecurity that whispers, man, could I have done that pace? What if that was the pace? Are you making a mistake by backing off? But deep down, I knew it's a 50-miler. And the winners aren't the ones who feel the best at mile 6. The winners are the ones who still have a brain at mile 36. So I settled back in. I got back to my 9:30 range, controlled the effort. And here's the lesson. A winner doesn't panic when they realize they're running too hot. They adjust. They course correct. They protect the back half of the race. Because you don't want to win an ultra by proving you're fast. You win an ultra by proving you're disciplined. So, yeah, early on, I got excited. I got a little carried away, but I caught it. I made the mature call. And in that moment, I really thought, okay, good. This is the start of a great day. And I think that was probably my first smart decision of the day. Maybe my only smart decision. So after that, I make the grown-up call on the decision at mile 10 and dial it back. Something crazy happened, right? Miles 10 through 20, dude, incredible. But not like I'm surviving incredible, but like, actually not even this is manageable incredible. I mean, like the kind of incredible where you start getting cocky in the quietest way possible. The pace was right. The breathing was steady. The heart rate felt so controlled and my legs weren't screaming. My stomach wasn't fighting me. My mind, well, it was calm. You know, in an ultra, if you feel that way, it kind of feels like you're cheating, right? Because ultras are supposed to be a negotiation with pain. And for those 10 miles, it didn't feel like pain. It felt like a flow. It felt like the miles were coming to me instead of me chasing them. And it's kind of funny because we trained for months for these little pockets of time. This is what the long runs are for. This is what the strength work is for. This is what the early mornings and the sacrifice and the, I'm sorry, babe, I have a run to do, moments are for. These miles, this is the race that I wanted. This was the version of me that I pictured. And the fueling was working too. And I'm not going to go into the full science lecture here, but you know, when you get nutrition right and it feels like you've unlocked an extra gear, this is what was happening. Everything I put in was doing what it was supposed to do. There was no stomach rebellion, no nausea, no weird energy crash, just steady, consistent, forward. It felt like I had this like invisible green light the whole way. Like the trail was just saying, keep going, keep going, keep going. And I remember thinking, all right, Nick, this is it. Do not ruin this. Just stay smart. And then we had our first ultra moment. Because there is always an ultra moment. You can have the best training. You can have the best pacing strategy. You can have the cleanest race plan ever created by man. But eventually your body will interrupt you with something that has nothing to do with running. And around mile 15, I had to go. And when I say I had to go, I mean I had to go. Like the kind of moment where you stop appreciating nature and start scanning the horizon for survival resources. So I see an aid station coming up and I'm thinking, oh, thank God, perfect timing. Beautiful. Everything's working. You know, I run over, my eyes are locked in, mission focused, head straight for the porta potties, grab the handle, shake it, and it doesn't open. It's locked, like locked with a whole bolt lock on there. And when you see a porta potty like that, you already know that your body wants to evacuate everything, right? And this thing is locked, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. You know, no problem. I didn't get to do my full morning release, and that's all I really wanted to do. This wasn't, I have to go number 2 because, you know, my stomach is rejecting all that I'm putting in. It was just, hey, I really kind of have to go, but, you know, I think I'm going to just hold it in. And if there's another one, I'll try to get it at the next one. So I see another one down the road, also locked. So I'm standing there kind of sweating, like, oh, am I going to make this? Am I really going to find, you know, a toilet somewhere, or am I going to be using the Ostrich Running trail flow out here? And I didn't carry extra water with me, so we'll figure it out, right? But as I keep running, I'm just like doing the math. I'm like, well, you know what? If I can hold this, I can, I'll be able to go in a couple hours at the end, right? And then you kind of, wonder, what are my options later? Okay. So I hold it to the next aid station. How far is that? What's the terrain like? I can find a bush. There's going to be people going by, but, it is what it is. That's part of the ultra running experience. I completely feel for the women on the course because we have a little bit easier to just go out there. So, I really feel for the female runners out there who were struggling because that's a tough spot to be in. But, I just pretty much went with option D, accepted death. And if it came out, then it came out, and I would deal with that later, right? But nobody really prepares you for that. No one's like, hey, mile 15, you're going to be in a bathroom escape room. But that's ultra running, right? It humbles you in ways that pace charts never really could. And eventually I sorted it out. The feeling just went away, and, I just survived, right? Now I immediately get back out to running like nothing happened. That's the least of my worries, except now I'm running with the fresh awareness that life can change fast at mile 15, right? At any moment. But aside from that, those miles were a dream. And this is the part that makes what happened later so painful, because I wasn't falling apart. I wasn't struggling. I wasn't in trouble. I was executing. I was locked into the pacing. I was moving smooth. I was fueling right. I was mentally stable. Now these miles, they were the green light. This was the race I wanted. This was the race I trained for. And at mile 20, I truly believed I was about to have my best ultra yet. But coming out of miles 10 through 20, I'm feeling great. I'm in that green light zone, and I'm thinking, this is it. This is the day. Just keep it together and don't get stupid. Somewhere around mile 24, first little crack showed up. Not in my legs, not in my breathing, not in my stomach, but in my attention. Because I zoned out. I don't mean like I stopped trying, right? I mean the kind of zoning out that happens when everything is going too well. You're cruising, when you're comfortable, when your brain goes, all right, cool. We got this. Put it on autopilot. And that's when it happened, right? I'm following a couple guys and I see them ahead of me and just running. And I look up and they're not there. And I could have sworn that I saw somebody go down this other path and off into the track, right? So I go through and I make a right down this gravel road, but I'm not seeing course marking flags. So I stop, and I look around. I'm waiting for somebody to come up behind me just to see if they're on the right course. And I look up the hill, and I'm like, did we go up that way? So I end up climbing up this hill, and I realize, no, this is not the way. And I run back down and I go to the original path that I was going down, and I take that to the end to where there's a gate closing in construction equipment. That is definitely not the path. The only option I have is to go all the way back until I see the first flag marking that I missed. And I go all the way back and I see that flag marking, and there I'm seeing a bunch of people pass through and make that small right turn where I went straight. And it was just so simple. It's like, just look up and you would have seen it right there, right? And, it just didn't register in that moment where the trail was basically saying like, hey man, I'm right here. This matters. Just keep running. And what's wild is it just didn't really feel wrong at first. It just, when you miss a turn in an ultra, it's not always like this dramatic moment where, alarms go off and the earth shakes, unless you have it on your GPX file of your watch. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes you just keep running and your brain's just in that flow state, right? But when I make it back on course, I'm kind of mad, right? Because it's like, well, that was 15 minutes and an extra mile. And adding 15 minutes goes from, the perfect day that you were hoping for, a dream day of 8 hours to 8 hours and 15 minutes. So now you're 15 minutes closer to, what your good day was, right? And that was just like, I made a mistake and I can pretend that I didn't make it, and just find my way back on course. But it was just like that time, right? That was the first crack in my confidence, right? Because up until then, I felt locked in, right? I felt disciplined. Up until then, I felt like I was executing the plan. I was doing what I had set out to do. And now I'm thinking, how did I even miss that, right? I'm not even talking about the practical part. I'm talking about the mental part, right? Because when you make a navigation mistake in an ultra, it kind of messes with you. It shakes you. Suddenly you can't really trust yourself, right? Suddenly you're questioning everything. Am I paying attention? Am I actually on the correct course right now? Looking for flags, right? And then it starts messing with your mind. You're thinking of too many things at once and the panic starts to kind of set in. How many other mistakes am I going to make today? And that moment, that should have been my wake-up call. That should have been the moment where I snapped out of that fog and I said, okay, Nick, that was your freebie. It's time to lock in. Like, pay attention. Heads up. No more autopilot. This is real now, right? But I didn't. I didn't reset. I didn't do the mental check-in. I didn't slow down for 5 seconds and get present. I just kept moving because that's what runners do. We don't like to stop and think. We like forward motion. We like pretending momentum is the same thing as focus, and it's not. So I keep going. And by the time I hit mile 29, I really started to feel it. Not a full bonk. Not the kind where you're seeing stars and collapsing into a bush, right? But that creeping feeling, that slow fade, where your body starts quietly tapping you on the shoulder. And he's like, hey, man, hello, we might be running out of gas here. And at first, you kind of try to ignore it. You're like, no, we're fine. But then your stride gets heavier. Your heart rate starts spiking, right? Even at a slower pace. Your mind starts just getting a little bit shakier and you start doing that thing that runners do where you bargain. You start saying stuff like, okay, just get to the next aid station. Just make it to mile 30, right? Just don't fall apart yet. And I could feel myself starting to, kind of panic, not outwardly, but internally, because the math starts running in your head. You really start doubting yourself. Man, can I hold this pace? Am I about to blow up? Did I go too hard early, even though I backed off? Is this the beginning of the end? And that panic makes everything worse because panic is expensive and it burns energy you don't have. It turns small discomfort into crisis. And at mile 29, I did what a lot of runners do when they feel the wheels wobbling. I tried to fix it with force, right? At that next aid station where I'd planned, I knew I'd left myself a Celsius energy drink and I just start pounding that thing like I'm trying to reboot a computer, shoved like 5 oranges in my mouth and I'm doubling up on carbs more than I had planned, right? More randomness than I planned. But in that moment, planning's gone. All you care about is stopping the decline. Fortunately, I'd been there before and I knew I needed to just consume more because that's the one thing you hear all the time. When you feel bad, just eat, eat, eat. And all I'm saying is please work, please work, please work. And looking back, here's what I learned, right? Sometimes you don't bonk because you're weak. You bonk because you're just underfueled, underfocused. Your body is working harder than it needs to. Not because your legs aren't strong enough, right? But because your brain isn't managing the effort right. Your brain isn't making clean decisions. Your brain isn't staying present. Your brain is letting the little things slide. And those little things, they add up. And that was me, mile 29. That was the first crack. And I didn't know it yet. But that crack was about to get bigger. Let's take a pause here for our second sponsor, Alethea Runs. We spend so much time tracking pace, distance, heart rate, and all these external metrics, but we don't track the thing that actually matters most, how we're moving. Alethea is a sensor that clips to your waistband and tracks the force your body experiences when you run. Not just you're running 8-minute miles, but how your body is actually absorbing impact. Whether you're braking too much, whether one leg is doing more work than the other. They call it a force portrait. And when I first saw mine, it was like, damn, this is what's actually happening when I run. This is where I'm inefficient. This is where I'm setting myself up for injury. And here's why this matters. Most running injuries don't just happen. They build over time because of the imbalances and inefficiencies we can't see. You're overstriding. You're landing too hard on one side. Your form is breaking down in ways you don't notice until something hurts. Alethea catches that before it becomes a problem. You get personalized feedback after every run. Tells you exactly what to work on, not generic advice, but your specific issues based on your unique biomechanics. I'm not saying this lightly. If you're serious about running long term, this is the tool you need because staying healthy is how you keep showing up. Head to alethea.run and use promo code RUNSCARED10 today. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I'm coming into mile 29, kind of wobbling, not exploding, but, just feeling a little off, right? I could feel that my energy level, was really slowing down. You're still moving forward, but you can feel the edge of the cliff getting closer. That was me. Doing the oranges. I'm doing the Celsius. I'm doing the ultra runner version of CPR on my own race. And then something happened. It honestly might have saved me. Not physically, but mentally. I saw Trace, right? And the second I saw him, I knew he wasn't just tired. He wasn't just having a tough patch. He was struggling, like real struggling. I get up to him and he tells me, I'm not doing so well. I'm really nauseous. And, you kind of have that look in your eyes, right? And it was just weird because up until that moment, I had been stuck in my own head. I've been running the internal checklist, right? Am I okay? What's my pace? What's my feeling? Why do I feel off? But when I saw him, something clicked. It was like my brain finally stopped staring at itself in the mirror. And I thought, oh, this is bigger than me right now, right? So I get next to him and I tell him, this is what we're going to do. I think your body's rejecting whatever you've been feeling with. We're not going to get into the science of things. I'm not going to do a pitch. We're going to just put you on what I know will work. I have some extra ostrich salt, some electrolytes. Let's go on this run, get what you need, and let's get out of here. And I told this crew, I got him, and we're going to keep going. It just, we left together. I didn't want to spend any more time at that aid station. I just knew we needed to get moving, right? And I told him as we were getting out there, getting like a feel of what he was going through, I realized that the ingredients probably of what he was taking in was just not sitting right with his stomach. And we had shared how we're so similar in so many different ways that I felt like he was going through what I've gone through in other races, right? So we're out there and, he had fallen before that and I'm just, trying to be present, not be a hero. And I just told him like, hey man, you're in a dark spot right now. We're going to get you out of this. I have an extra bottle of my high carb drink mix and ostrich salt. And I knew that, if he just started consuming that and water, we could flush out whatever previous stuff was in his system. And, I kept telling him, I know it feels counterintuitive right now and you're nauseous and the last thing you want to do is eat, but that is the worst thing that you can do. You have to force this stuff down. I took out one of my bottles of my mix. I knew I had enough calories on me and at the next aid stations where I wasn't going to be behind in calories. I just wouldn't be consuming a liquid carbohydrate fueling strategy for that moment. I still had more packed, so I knew I'd be fine later. I wanted him to get fueled quick and have something that, doesn't upset his stomach. And that's kind of the reason why I built this whole brand, right? Built this electrolyte mix. I'd been there before. And I told him, you're not alone. Let's just get you ready and steady. And, we start moving. And I know his knee was still hurting. He started slowing down a bit, but I told him, you're not allowed to DNF at the next aid station. If you get to the next aid station, take some aspirin or some Tylenol. And then if you still want to quit, you can quit at the next one after that. Right. And I knew that was like mile 40. So if you make it to that point, there's no point in quitting anyway. You just go and you finish those last 10 miles. So it was kind of like a strategy on my part, right? But, it's like for me to give away that fueling, right? It's like, I know it's tough for most people, right? Especially when you're trying to finish a little bit quicker, you're very limited on what you carry, and almost everything that you have is necessary, right? But I knew where I was at in my race, and, it could feel like offering someone some of your fuel is like giving away your ammo in the middle of a firefight, right? Because you're thinking like, if I give this away, what does that cost me later, right? But I just didn't hesitate, man. In that moment, I knew he needed it more than I did. And I've been where he has been before. And I was very confident in my product and my mix that it would pull him out of the dark place that he was in. Obviously, the rest of the work was up to him. All I could do was do my best to ease his physical ailments, right? And, he took it, he downed it. And I told him, just drink water the rest of the way. As he slowed down, I'm going to, leave you from here, but you got it. This is the plan. You don't drop at the next aid station. If you still feel bad, you can do it at the following one. And, then I left him, right? But, leaving him there, it reminded me something so simple that we forget, right? Sometimes the body isn't failing. It's just missing what it needs, right? Salt, carbs, consistency, and calmness, right? And meanwhile, my nutrition had been working all day. It wasn't anything fancy. It wasn't complicated. It was just something consistent, right? Ostrich salt, simple carbs, keep moving. But here's what I didn't expect, right? Helping Trace really helped me, right? Because as I left him, I was out of my own suffering. It pulled my attention out of my spiral, and it reminded me why I love this sport. Because ultra running can be brutal, but it can also be unbelievably human, right? And I swear, one of the fastest ways to stop suffering is to serve someone else. And this is something that I've known in life, right? When I got sober, this is a method that we do, right? We find solitude in the service of others, right? We're in dark places. We're, early days of sobriety. You are service to the meeting. You will set up the tables. You'll make the coffee. You'll clean up, set up the chairs. Whatever it is, you are in service of others. When you are suffering in your own experiences, the best thing I can suggest is to go be of service for others. And like I said, that goes in ultra races and in life. It is the fastest and the best way to get out of your head. And, it did that for me. And, as I start kind of coming together, right, I start feeling okay again. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I'm back. It felt really cool to be able to fix a problem and move forward again. But here's where the story takes its turn, right? Because I'm coming out of that low around mile 29, mile 30, and I'm starting to feel better. I'm talking to myself back into the race. I'm like, all right, that was the dip and we survived it. Now let's go execute the rest. Because if you survive a dip, man, that second wind that you're going to have, especially in a 50 mile, you can ride that to the end. Obviously, in a 100-mile race, you're going to have multiple dips, and you got to survive and ride it out. But that was the danger zone right there. Because when you start feeling good again, you think that the hard part is over, and you stop being careful. You stop being alert. You start trusting the momentum again instead of awareness. And somewhere in that stretch where I pulled myself out of that dark place, I completely missed the sign for the 50-miler loop. I just miss it. I don't see it. I don't register it. I can't even, when I recall the run, it's like I blacked out that portion of the race, right? I don't even register it. I don't even notice that, the runner traffic has thinned out, because most people are actually taking that loop. I felt like I was just in a pocket of an area of the race where there's just no runners, right? It's just quiet. So I'm just running. I'm locked into my own little world, assuming I'm on the right path, which I was, because after you come back from that loop, you're right on to the course that I was on. So in my mind, I'm thinking, this is the course. This is fine. You made it out of a dark place. Just keep moving forward. And then I hit this next aid station. And then a volunteer tells me, hey, you're in 4th place. I'm like, okay, cool, because that sounds good. But in that exact same moment, something in my gut goes, that's weird. That doesn't make any sense, because earlier in the race, I'd been passed. I knew there were guys ahead of me. I knew the field. I knew the math. And the math, it wasn't mathing. But here's what I did. I didn't trust that feeling. I didn't stop and ask questions. I didn't say, wait, what, 4th? Are you sure? Did I miss something? I didn't investigate, right? I didn't look at my watch mileage and ask them, hey, what is this aid station mileage on the way back? And in that moment, I could have just went back and made that loop. But I didn't investigate. I let the compliment override the instinct. And that was my first real clue that something was wrong, right? The race will give you clues. The question is, are you paying attention? And I wasn't. And here's what makes it even crazier. From that point on, I felt amazing, like truly amazing. The fog had lifted, the legs came back, the mind cleared, and I hit this flow state. You know, that place where you're not forcing anything, you're just moving, smooth, controlled, strong. I was closing in hard. I was running a 9:15 pace. I was even running the uphills at a 9:55 pace. And I remember thinking, this is it. This is the finish I wanted. This is the performance I trained for. I'm imagining my wife at the finish line. I'm imagining my coach hearing this recap thinking, finally, this is the race where I put it together. And then I came into the finish chute and people are cheering and I crossed the line in 7 hours and 42 minutes. And immediately it's congratulation mode. Great job, Nick. 4th overall, 1st in your age group. And for a few seconds, I let myself feel it, because you would, because you're human. And then I stopped my watch and I looked down and my heart sank, because the distance wasn't just a little off. It wasn't GPS drift. It wasn't Garmin being Garmin. It was like way too short, like 5 miles short. And you know that feeling, that like sick feeling in your stomach when you already know the answer, but your brain is still trying to negotiate with reality? Like, no. Maybe the course was a little short. Maybe the GPS glitch. Maybe, but it wasn't close enough to be a maybe. This wasn't a rounding error. This was a missing chunk of the race. And it was in that moment that I knew, regardless of what I had just put out there on that course, I didn't finish. You can ask my wife. I just kept questioning it. I'm like, there's no way. Something is up. Something is up. And I just knew, right? So I get back to my car, still sweaty, still kind of dazed. And I do what every runner does now after a race, right? I open up Garmin, pull up the track, and I compare it to the official course map. And it didn't match. Not slightly, not maybe a detour. It didn't match in a way that made my stomach drop again. That 50-miler loop, that little section, the one I completely missed, and then the reality hit. I ran 45 miles, not 50. And right there in my car, I had a choice, because here's what I want people to understand, right? The hard decision isn't when everyone's watching. The hard decision is when nobody knows yet. Because in that moment, I could have stayed quiet, could have taken the result, I could have posted the photo, I could have accepted the age group win, and unless someone else caught it, that would have been that. But I couldn't. Because the whole thing would have felt fake. So as soon as I got cell signal, I messaged Eric, the race director, and obviously he's running a race, so there's no response right away. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, okay, I know Melissa knows him. She has his contact information. If I need to, I'll email this. I'll make sure this gets corrected, right? But of course, Melissa's out there on the course, and I know that she's in her own portion of the race, right? And I'm just like, I don't know how to explain this, but she's going to come to that finish line feeling like crap because she just ran 50 miles. And then I'm going to put this on top. But when my coach finished her race, I let her know what had happened, what I found, and that I just needed Eric's contact information. And I emailed him right after. And let me tell you this, right? Eric was amazing. Supportive, understanding, so quick to respond, right? The next day, he's like, hey, I'm out here cleaning up. I got your message. It sucks, man. Looks like you missed a loop. But he didn't give me any judgment, no guilt trip. Just, hey, thanks for being honest. We'll correct it. And I'll never forget that, because right after that, he also said that doesn't take away from what you did out there, right? And it reminded me that integrity isn't just about doing the right thing. It's also about being the kind of person who can do the right thing without really making it weird. And here's the line that I want you to hear. I'd rather be honest and humbled than praised for something I didn't do. And that's the choice every time. And I'm not going to lie to you. This one hurts, right? It still hurts. Because this wasn't just a mistake on a course. It felt like a mistake in character. It felt like I let people down. I felt like I let my coach down. Because she's putting in real time, real intention, real work. And I wanted this race to be proof. I felt like I let my wife down. Because she supports all of this. The training, the early mornings, the long runs, the weird schedule. And I wanted to give her a day where she could stand at the finish line and be like, yep, that's my guy. He executed. And I felt like I let myself down too. Because I wanted to prove something. I wanted to prove that I could put it together. Not just endure, not just survive, execute. And instead, I made a mistake. A big one. And it wasn't just frustration. It was sadness, embarrassment, this heavy feeling like, how could I do that? How could I be that careless? But like my coach continues to coach even after, right? She said, let yourself feel it. Because that's real. That's human. Sit with it, acknowledge it, but don't live there. And the winner mindset isn't pretending it doesn't hurt. Winner mindset is letting it hurt and refusing to build a home inside the disappointment. So yeah, I felt it. I'm still feeling some of it now, but I'm not going to stay here. So let's turn this into something useful, because I don't want this episode to just be a confession. I want it to be a lesson. I want it to be something that makes you feel better, whether you're running, building a business, raising kids, whatever it may be. So here's my never again list. The things I'm changing immediately. Number 1, know the course better. Not casually, I glanced at the map. I mean, study it, print it, look at the key turns, look at the gotcha points, know the spots where people mess up. Because hope, it's not a strategy. And I'll figure it out is how you lose races. Number 2, have a race day focus plan. Not just a fueling plan, a focus plan. Mental check-ins at specific mile markers. Like mile 10, am I present? Mile 20, am I locked in? Mile 30, am I paying attention? Mile 40, am I still making decisions? And if the answer is no, reset. Breathe. Slow down for about 10 seconds. Look around. Get your brain back into your body. And number 3, don't outsource your awareness. Don't rely on other runners. Don't rely on a crowd flow. Don't rely on, well, everyone else is going this way. You own your race. You own your navigation. Number 4, notice the clues. If something feels off, investigate it immediately. If you hear a placement that doesn't make sense, ask questions. If the trail feels too quiet, check. If your gut says something is wrong, listen. That instinct is data. Use it. Number 5, execute the basics. Pace, fuel, attention, humility, because you can't skip steps. You can't phone it in, and the details matter more than the hype. And that's my list. That's what I'm taking into the next one. And I'm telling you right now, this isn't going to be the story of the time I messed up. This is going to be the story of the lesson that made me sharper. So, yeah, I ran 7 hours and 42 minutes and it didn't count. And I wish I could tell you that I walked away from that finish line calm and collected, that I shrugged it off like some tough guy lesson from the universe. But that's not really true. Like I said, it hit me because I wanted it. I wanted that result for my coach. I wanted it for my wife because she's carried the weight of all these miles for all these years. And I wanted it for me because there's a part of me that's still chasing proof that I'm becoming the man I say I am. So, yeah, I'm disappointed, but here's what I know. This actually might be the most valuable race I've had in a long time because it reminded me that fitness isn't the only thing being tested out there. Execution matters. Focus matters. Details matter. And when it's all stripped down, when the finish line comes and the noise starts, integrity matters more than placement ever will. See, anybody can look like a winner when the numbers are in their favor. But the real test is what you do when you realize you didn't earn it. When no one else knows yet, when you could stay quiet and take the applause, that's the moment that defines you. And I'm not proud of the mistake, but I am proud that I didn't build a story around it. I didn't hide it. I didn't decorate it. I didn't pretend. I owned it. because I'd rather be humbled by truth than praised for something I didn't do. So no, we're not here at a pity party. This is just a checkpoint. This is me looking at the man in the mirror and saying, all right, lesson learned, eyes up, lock in, and then doing what winners do. Not talking about it, not posting about it, working. And I'm going to see you at the next one. And we have some big goals. And we're going to learn from this. We're going to keep running scared that we don't make that mistake again. And again, I thank you guys all for the messages week after week. I thank you guys for the support, for listening to this show, for making it what it has been. It's been so fun doing this, and I can't wait to continue to bring you more and more content and episodes. And I'm just grateful to share this experience with all of you. With that being said, cue that outro music.
Who says you need to fly to reach the top? Keep beating your block till your feet are hot. Get your head out the sand, join the flock. It's okay to run scared, we enjoy it a lot. I'm an odd kid, like an ostrich. I got a pod, kids, here's a topic. Blaze your own trail, don't be cautious. Two birds, one stone's how I rock it. Can't make an omelet without breaking a shell. But the say grew up, now I'm raising hell. Haters gonna hate, yeah, they praying you fail. So put in the work, whether pavement or trail. The greats fell down, but they got to their feet. Run your own race, put this pod on repeat. Shake your tail feather, keep nodding your beaks. Ostrich gang, or you're not my peeps. Who says you need to fly to reach the top?